to all. Today's office is Daf Samach Vav. We are starting at the top of the daf with the brand new Mishnah. And today's office sponsor Lilu Nishmas Mars Miriam Zara Bas Yaakov Moshe her Neshama should have an Aliyah, and Lilu Nishmas Rabbi Chmil Mordechai Ben Reb Chaim his Neshama should have an Aliyah. And the Mishnah continues Paschin B'Yom Tovim Shabbos. We'll use Yontif and Shabbos as a Pesach for a neder. Let's say a person said, I'm not going to eat meat or drink wine for an entire year. So we can tell him, we can make a Pesach for him. Do you know that it's usher to not eat meat and drink wine on Shabbos and Yontif? You're not allowed to pain yourself like that. And if he says, I wouldn't have made a neder had I known that, so we can use that as a valid Pesach. Now, Barishana, originally, they used to say, those days, Shabbos and Yontif, is permitted for him to eat meat and drink wine, but all other days, the rest of the year, it's usher for him to. Rabbi made until Rabbi Kiva came along and taught, that a neder, they got a heter for some of it, the entire thing is now mattered. In case what's another example of this? Amar, let's say a fellow says, I'm not going to benefit from all of you. So if we have a heter for one of them, so then all of them in Mela are going to be mutter as well. However, now we have a few exceptions to this rule. Let's say he says, I'm not going to be nana from you or from you, so hoter rishon, hoter kulon. If there's a heter for the first person that had the neder made on him, so then all of them follow in suit, and they're also permitted as well, because all of them were contingent on him. Second on the first, third on the second, fourth on the third, so on and so forth. Whereas hoter ha'achrein mutter v'kulon asurin, if only the last one has a heter for him, only he is mutter, but all the other ones are usur. Skip the parentheses, continue. Let's say he says, shani nana lazeh carbon v'lazeh carbon. If he makes a neder to you carbon, so he needs a pesach for each and every one of them. That's because in such a case, he made an individual neder on each person. The Mishnah continues. Let's say a fellow says, I'm not going to drink wine because wine's bad for the stomach. They told him, old or aged wine is good for the stomach. So he not only has a heter for aged wine, he has a heter for all wine. Let's say he says, I'm not going to eat onions because they're bad for the heart. They told him, kufri onions are good for the heart. So hoter b'kufri, he's mutter to eat kufri onions. Not only kufri onions, he's allowed to eat all onions. And Ma'aseh there's a story of it. Rav Meir b'chol habitzalim. Rav Meir matter this person to eat all onions. Now the Gemara just quotes the case in the Mishnah. Hoter achrein ha'achrein mutter v'klon asurin. As the last one got a heter on him, so he's permitted, but everyone else that came before him is still usur. Man Tana, who's the Tana of this Mishnah? Amrava, Reb Shimon, it's Reb Shimon. To Amar, he says, Ad sheyomer shvu l'chol echad ve'echad, until a person makes an individual shvu on each and every person. This is really referring to the case after this in the Mishnah, where a person said, lazeh carbon, lazeh carbon. So that would be Reb Shimon, that we have to have an individual neder on each person. I think we're continuing to explain the Mishnah. We said, and it seemed from the Mishnah that the reason why the person was allowed to drink wine is because we proved that wine was good for him. He said that wine was bad for me, and we showed him that no, wine is really good for him. The Gemara asked, why don't we just say that the reason why wine is permitted is because wine isn't bad? He said wine is bad. Why don't we just show him how wine is not bad? Why do we have to show him the positive that wine is actually good for him? We really only have to be countering what his neder was. So Rav explains, the Mishnah is just saying that not only is wine not bad for you, wine is also good for you. And something similar we had said in the Mishnah, and it seemed to be that we had said in the Mishnah that the reason why he's allowed to have onions is because onions are good for him. The Gemara asks, once again, why do we have to prove that onions are good for him? He simply said onions are bad, so we could show him how onions are not bad, but we don't have to show him how onions are good. So once again, Rav says, we're saying that not only are onions not bad, but they also are good for you. And moving on to another Mishnah, the Mishnah tells us, we can make a Pesach for a person for his own honor and for the honor of his children. This is specifically referring to a case where a person made a neder that's going to make him divorce his wife, so he can use himself and his children as the Pesach. We tell him, if you knew that tomorrow they would say about you, this is this fellow's habit, he divorces his wives, and on your daughters they'll say, these are the daughters of women that were divorced. What did he see in their mother that he divorced her? In other words, they're going to say really bad things about you and about your kids. And if the fellow says, if I knew that was the situation, I never would have made the neder, so that's a valid Pesach for the neder. And continuing, let's say the fellow says, I'm not going to marry that woman because she's ugly. Turns out that she's beautiful. Or he says, she has a dark complexion, I'm not going to marry her. Turns out she has a fair complexion. Kitsara, she's short, I'm not going to marry her. Turns out she's tall. He's allowed to marry her. It's not because she used to be ugly and now she became beautiful. She used to have a dark complexion and now she has a fair complexion. She used to be short and all of a sudden now she's tall. It's because originally the nether was a mistake. He thought she was ugly, dark, and short, and it turns out that she wasn't. wasn't. And Umaisa, there's a story with a person, he made a neder from his niece that he's not going to get benefit from her. That's because she was ugly. And they brought her into the house of Rabbi Yishmael, and he beautified her. Amr Rabbi Yishmael told her uncle, Bani, my son, Mizuna Dart, you made a neder from this woman? Amr he said, Lav, no, not from that woman. She's very beautiful. Rabbi Yishmael mattered the situation. And at that time, Rabbi Yishmael cried and he said, B'nais Yisrael nice hain, really B'nais Yisrael are beautiful. Elasha nios min avlasan, poverty makes them ugly. And when Rabbi Yishmael died, Hayu B'nais Yisrael noises kina, the daughters, the Yiddish Amedelech, they said a kina v'imers, and they said, B'nais Yisrael al Rabbi Yishmael v'chena, B'nais Yisrael, about Rabbi Yishmael you should cry. V'chein v'imers b'shal, it says about Shaul HaMelech as well, B'nais Yisrael al Shaul v'chena. Now the Gemara asks a question on what we just said. Ma'aseh Lister, it seems to be that we're bringing a story which contradicts what we just said. We had said in the Mishnah that if a person made a neder that he's not going to marry a woman because she's ugly, and it turns out that she wasn't ugly, so he's allowed to marry her. That's only because she was always beautiful, implying that if she was ugly and she made herself beautiful, then his neder would be chal. But then the story of Rabbi Yishmael shows not like that. Rabbi Yishmael had taken a woman who wasn't beautiful and made her beautiful, and he said the neder's not chal anymore. So it seems to be a contradiction. So Gemara says, no, we're really missing something, and this is what should be taught in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yishmael says, afilu ku'ura v'nasis na'eh, even if she was ugly and she became beautiful, shchayra v'nasis levana, she had a dark complexion and she got a fair complexion. Kitzara, she was short v'nasis haruka and she became tall, even so we could be mata the neder. And there was a story with a fellow that made a neder from his niece, and they brought her into the house of Rabbi Yishmael and he beautified her, and we know the rest of the story from the Mishnah. That's on the top. What exactly was this woman's issue? Why wasn't she beautiful? So Tana was taught in the Brayso, she had a false tooth, and that false tooth made her ugly. And Rabbi Yishmael made her a golden tooth out of his own pocket. He used his own money for this, and that gold tooth beautified her. Now Kishach Rabbi Yishmael died. Pasach Allah Husafdana Hachi. A certain eulogizer opened up and said, B'nais Yisrael al Rabbi Yishmael b'chena. B'nais Yisrael cry about Rabbi Yishmael Hamabishchen v'chulu, who clothed you, so on and so forth. And now once we mention this wonderful act that Rabbi Yishmael did, we have something similar. Hahuda Amrullah the Bitsu. There was a fellow that told his wife, Kanim Shiat Nanesli Achet Imi Tavshilech Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Shimon. Kanim, that you're not allowed to benefit from me until you give some of your food to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda Taim. Rabbi Yehuda tasted the food. Amar, he said, Kal v'chaimer, u'ma'alasus shalom beinish le'ishtai, in order to make peace in between man and wife. This is referring to a woman who's a saita. We suspect her of being adulterous. Amar the Torah says, Shmi shenechta b'kedusha, my name, meaning the name of Hashem, which is written in Kedusha, Yimacha alamayim hamarim, should be erased on this mayim hamarim. That's what we do with a saita. We bring it to the base of Mikdash. We have a whole procedure that happens, and part of the procedure, Hashem's name is erased in water, and she drinks it. Now this is besuffic. It's only a suffix. We don't know if this is going to bring about shalom bayis, but still we erase Hashem's name. V'ani, says Rabbi Yehuda, alachas kam v'kama, for sure I'm going to bring about shalom bayis by eating this food, so of course I'm going to forgive my honor and I'm going to eat the food. Now Rabbi Shimon light time. Rabbi Shimon did not taste the food. Amar, he said, Yemusu kol b'nei almana, all the sons of this almana should die. It seems like he was giving a curse that she's going to become an almana, meaning her husband's going to die and her children are going to die as well. V'al yazuz Shimon m'kaimai, and Shimon's not going to move from his place, meaning I'm not going to taste the food. It's a lack of kavod. Furthermore, another reason why I'm not going to eat the food is so that he shouldn't be accustomed to making nedarim. If I eat the food this time, he's going to make more nedarim, and that's not beseder. Another story, there's a fellow that told his wife, Kainim shiyat nanisli achet turagi by Reb Shimon Gamliel. Kainim, that you're not allowed to benefit from me until you spit on Reb Shimon Gamliel. Idas she went v'raka kalvushe, and she spat on his clothing. Amalei Rav Acham Medifti Ravina. Rav Acham Medifti told Ravina, V'ha hailazi lusa kamachavin. This fellow had intent to degrade Reb Shimon Gamliel, and in order to degrade someone, you have to spit on their flesh, not on their clothing. Amalei, he told him, Meirak al-mani Reb Shimon Gamliel zilusa rabsahi. Spitting on the clothing of Reb Shimon Gamliel is a great degradation for him, because he's such a great man, so even that is considered degradation for him. And a similar story, Hud Amalei the Bitzer, a fellow told his wife, Kainim shiyat nanisli, you're not allowed to have benefit from me, achetiri mum yafa shabech Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, until you could show something beautiful in you to Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. Amalei, so he asked them, meaning Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi asked the representatives that came to him to try to find out if she has something beautiful about her. Shema Rasha Noah, maybe her head is beautiful. Amalei, they told him, Segalgal, it's round. So he asked Shema Sarana, maybe she has beautiful hair. So they told him, no, Daimalanitse Pishtan, it's like bundles of flax. So he asked Shema, now nice, maybe her eyes are beautiful. So they said, no, Terutais Hain, they're round. So he asked Shema, now nice, maybe she has beautiful ears. So they said, nope, Kfulis Hain, they're double, they're huge. So he suggested Shema Chaitmana, maybe she has a very nice nose. They told him, nope, Balam Hu, it's closed. He continued trying to find something beautiful. Shema Sifsai nice, maybe she has beautiful lips. They said, nope, Avais Hain, they're very thick. He says, Shema Tzavar Noah, maybe she has a nice neck. They said, Shaka Hu, it's short. He said, Shema Kresa Noah, maybe she has a nice stomach. Tzava Hu, it's bloated. Shema Ragla Noah, maybe she has nice legs. Rechavis Kishal Avza, they're wide like a goose. So he asked Shema Shema Noah, maybe she has a beautiful name. They told him Lachaluches Shema, her name is Lachaluches, which means dirty or stained. So Amar Lahen, he told them, Yafa Karnas Lachaluches, that's something beautiful about her that they call her Lachaluches, that's her name. Sheim Luchachas B'mumin, because she's dirtied with so many mumin. So the beautiful thing about her is that her name is very apropos to her. Zecharia, and he permitted this nether, meaning the nether wasn't chal, because he found something beautiful about her. And a final story, Ahu bar Bavel, the Sakla Arda Yisrael, there was a fellow from Bavel who went to Eretz Yisrael. Nasav Itza, he married a woman. Amalai told her, Bashili li trei talafi, please cook for me a couple lentils. Now he intended for her to cook him a few lentils, but she took him literally, and Bashila le trei talafi, she literally cooked him 2 lentils. Rasa chala, he got mad at her. Lamachal, the next day, Amalai asked her, Bashili li griva, cook for me a measure of lentils, meaning cook for me a whole bunch of them. Bashila le griva, so she literally cooked him a whole full measure of lentils, which is way too many. Amalai, he told her, Zili aisili trei butzini, go bring me 2 melons. Azlas v'aisile trei shragi, she went and she brought him 2 lamps, because the word butzini could mean either melons or lamps. Amalai, he told her, Zili tavri yasan al resha de bava, go break them on the doorpost. Havi Yosef Bava ben Buta abava, Bava ben Buta, who was one of the Gedalim at that time, he was sitting by the doorpost, the Kadain Dina, and he was judging a case. Azlas, she came, v'tavris yasan al reshe, and she broke these lamps on his head, because her husband said, go break them on Bava, so she thought he meant on Bava ben Buta. So Amalai, he asked her, Mahadein Davdes, what is this that you just did? Amalai, she told him, Kach tivani bali, this is what my husband told me to do. Amar, he said, Ata sisr tzayin balech, you did what your husband wanted. Hamakam yotze yemech shnei banim kebav ben Buta, Hashem should bring forth from you 2 sons like Bav ben Buta. Hadron al Rabbi Eliezer, Mazel Tov, we're finishing the 9th parak of Masechtas Nedarim. Just like we finished this parak together, we should be zechar to finish the entire Masechta together, and of course, all of Shas together. We're going to stop here for the day, pick up tomorrow with a brand new parak. For now, everyone should have a wonderful day.